Good morning, everybody. We are moving on to a new position today, and we are moving right along that interior offensive line. And we have gotten to the right guard position. Another area of this team where we're okay, but we need to get better. We are currently not in a very good state to start the season at right guard. We need to get better. And we could get better at every level in theory, right? Right now, our starting right guard is Phil Haynes. Phil Haynes is injury prone. He's produced mixed results when he's been on the field so far. And I don't even really think he's a right guard. I think he's a left guard. He's smaller, a little more mobile. I think that Phil Haynes would be better at left. So right now you have a left guard playing right and right guard playing left. It's all like topsy-turvy, messed up. I don't really get it. I don't like it. But look, I've always been a Phil Haynes supporter. I've always have been. Last year shook me a little bit because I don't think he played well, but I've always been pro Phil Haynes. I've always been excited to see what he can do. So I'm not going to be against going into the season with him as the starter because it's time for him to sink or swim. We need to find out if Phil Haynes is anything. So I got no problem with him starting. And look, we gave him $4 million. I think he is going to start. But even if you assume that Phil Haynes is going to be okay at right guard, which I wouldn't, we still need a backup. Right now, I have Greg Island listed as our backup, and he's not even a guard. He's a tackle. I just put him there because he needed to go somewhere. So you've got Greg Island as your main right guard backup. I don't even know if he's ever played that position before. I guess he's big enough for it. But at the very minimum, you need a better backup so Greg Island can get the heck back to the practice squad where he belongs. You might need to do a little bit better than Phil Haynes, honestly. And you might be able to. Right guard is a position where it's not that hard to find good players. They're all over the place. They're not superly high coveted. They're not going to get paid a ton of money. And you can usually find competent play at right guard. So we may end up doing a little better than Phil Haynes, and Phil Haynes may end up being like a jack of all trades backup, where he's a backup for left guard and right guard. That may end up happening. So I wouldn't mind that. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to do it in the draft. So let's take a look at some right guard prospects. And I'm just going to say this. My problem is I feel like the best right guards in this draft are being heavily overvalued. So let's take a look at the universal number one right guard in this class. Everybody loves this guy. Everybody's crazy about this guy, Osiris Torrance of the Florida Gators. As right guards go, he's phenomenal. He is special. He is going to go in the top 100. He may go in the first round. He may go even in the top 20 for all I know. And I get it, but I don't get it. You know, it's a weird thing where he's not doing anything wrong, really. He is a prototypical, made by the hands of Zeus himself right guard, but I just don't see the positional value. It's just one of those things, man. But anyway, let's talk about him because there is some really cool stuff here. I'm not saying he's a bad prospect at all. In fact, I'd say the exact opposite. Osiris Torrance, 6'5", 330 pounds, so he's big, heavy, 33, almost 34-inch arms, long arms, 11 and a quarter-inch hands, monster hands. He's got pliers for hands, too. He uses them. 5'3", 140, 184 10-yard split, 20, not even a 2-foot vertical, 8-foot, 5-inch broad, 4.8 120-yard shuttle, 23 bench press reps. So, I mean, he was what you expected at the combine. I don't think anyone's terribly surprised by the fact that he doesn't move very well and he's not an explosive athlete. But, yeah, that's not a combine to write home to your mom about. Nevertheless, the big boards are very complimentary of him. Of the ones that I use, half of them have him in the first and half of them have him in the early second. The aggregate says he's going to be a late first-round pick. I expect him to go in that range, honestly, and that is the problem. Because as much as Osiris Torrance is an amazing right guard prospect, he is still a right guard. I mean, you wouldn't spend a first-round pick on a kicker. You wouldn't spend a first-round pick on a punter. At least I hope not. And for similar reasons, I just wouldn't spend a first-round pick on a right guard. I don't think they have enough value. Nevertheless, if you were going to spend a first-round pick on a right guard, it would probably be this one. He was graded out phenomenally well. Amazing run blocker, almost a 90 in run blocking, 76.1 in pass protection, 88 overall, 90.2 in zone-based blocking, 74 in gap, and he didn't allow any sacks, any QB hits, 8 hurries across the season. So, look, the performance is great. I'm not taking anything away from him. And you watch him play, you see the really cool stuff. He plays very low. Even though he's a bigger guy and he's a taller guy, he plays very low to the ground. He's got that low center of gravity. Good luck beating him in the leverage game. No problems there. Great stuff. He's got amazing hands. That's probably the most notable trait he has. His hands latch on and don't let go. Once he gets his hands on the defensive lineman, that defensive lineman, he may as well sit down for the rest of the play sometimes, it seems like. He's got a super strong anchor. I saw players try to bull rush him. He's able to reset his anchor when he needs to. He's able to re-anchor if somebody gets the best of him with like the, the 2-foot hop, the little like frog hop that they do. He's got a really, really strong anchor. You're not going to push through him. His footwork is really good in that regard. His footwork when he's engaged with a defensive lineman is good. The way he uses his hands, the way he's able to constantly redefine where he's got his hands on the defensive lineman is great. He's big and he's got long arms. Those long arms are going to help him a lot. He's quick off the snap. The snap is out and he's up, ready to go. He's somebody who can blow open big holes for the run game. He's somebody who can open up giant opportunities for the running back by himself. And he's a hard worker. He plays physically. Like, as right guards go, this is what you want. But me saying that is a double-edged sword, because in this offense, the right guard is, you at least ideally would have a right guard that can do a little bit more than that. And Torrence is probably not that. In his cons, I said, he's at his best when he doesn't have to move. You look at all of his good reps, almost always he's just up and he's engaged. He stands up, he's engaged. He stands up, he's engaged. He's not peeling around to the other side of the offensive line. He's not moving through the second level, hitting linebackers and defensive backs. He's just a stationary player. When you get him in space, he can get off balance. He can get overly aggressive in trying to land a block and miss the block completely, loses control in space. Quickness is going to be a problem for him. Pass rushers can get around him. Things like stunts are going to get around him. He's not great at picking up blitzes. He gets up to the second level, he's not going to be very good. So, look, there are plenty of offenses out there that are going to put the right guard out there and say, hey, just play in a phone booth. Play in the phone booth and don't leave. But once he's asked to move around, and ideally we would have guards that can move around in this Shane Waldron offense, he's not that good. And combine that with the positional value, which, again, taking a right guard in the first round of the draft is kind of against my religion unless it's a really bad draft. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. To me, look, if he's there in the mid to late second, the value is good, I would do it. And look, you would have to work around his skill set a little bit. You would probably have to restrict your offense a little bit, but you're getting an A-plus player. I can admit that. In those areas, he is A-plus. I can live with the shortcomings. But overall, I'm not that interested. There's no way I'm willing to take him until long after he's going to be gone. Somebody's going to value him. Okay, so that's the first right guard who has a really good chance of going in the top 100. Here's the other one. It's Steve Avila of TCU, and I'm just going to say it. I kind of feel the same way about this guy for the exact same reasons. In fact, Steve Avila is kind of a poor man's Osiris Torrance in some ways. 23 years old, 6'3.5", 332 pounds, nice and heavy, pretty long arms, 33 inches, 9.25-inch hands. Combine results were overall, I'd say, probably a little bit better, but still, they betray the fact that he's a big, strong guy who doesn't move all that well, going to have trouble playing in space, going to have trouble dealing with speed, and going to have trouble as a pulling guard, as a guard moving up to the second level. And there are plenty of offenses that are fine with that. The right guard is typically the guy who takes on the one tech or the nose tackle, and typically somebody who doesn't have to move a lot. In this offense, I feel like the ideal would be a guard who can do those things. So even beyond that, guys, It's a right guard. I feel like I can find competent fat guys in the 6th or 7th round pretty easily most years. Steve Avila, I got to spend a second round pick on him. I'm just not feeling it. And a lot of the big boards do have him in the second round. A couple have him in the 6th, but you're probably going to have to spend a late second round pick on him, and I'm just not seeing the positional value. Now, he didn't have an amazing year in 2022. He was graded out 71, which is good. His run blocking wasn't great, 66.6. Pass blocking was really nice. Much better in zone than gap, and I know people are going to look at that and read something into it, but I see this guy being more of a gap, more of a power guard than a zone guard. So I'm looking at the skill set and I'm trying to put it together. Once he gets to the NFL, his abilities in space are going to look even worse. Now, I can't completely take everything away from Steve Avila. He's not a bad player. He was a team captain for TCU. He's big and strong, just like Torrence. He anchors really well against bull rushes, just like Torrence. When there's a run play, and once there's the snap, he's very aggressive in seeking defenders and run blocking. He's somebody who's going to go to the defender and meet him physically. He opens up big holes in the run game. He's got great latches on with his hands, doesn't let go. And Avila may end up playing center in the NFL. A lot of people think he will. I think he has a little bit of flexibility. Maybe that's one area where he beats out Torrence. In most areas, I look at him and say, oh, that's Torrence, who's a little bit lesser overall. But in this area, maybe his flexibility helps him win out. So, don't get me wrong. Really good right guard prospect, but again, is there any upside here for him to move to left guard? No. Not in our offense anyway, I don't think. So, again, the weaknesses, I think, are very clear. He loses effectiveness against speedy interior rushers. Like if you put Steve Avila up against a guy like Khalid Cansey, you're going to have problems. You put him up against even Aaron Donald at this point, he's going to have problems because he's slow. And he's going to have a hard time staying in front of quicker interior rushers. And that is what I'm thinking about in this offense more than the strength game. His lateral movement's not very good. He doesn't move well. He doesn't shuffle his feet that well. He's going to get beat to the edges. He moves kind of stiffly. Another phone booth guy. Another guy who plays in the phone booth. And I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to get personnel that fit this scheme while we're running it. So, great player, great prospect, just not what I'm looking for right now. Struggles when trying to block in space. Not good at picking up blitzers. Kind of I don't want to say, he plays with a little bit of a low football IQ, I think, in terms of like understanding where the pressure's coming from and where he has to go to beat it. Like, he's not good at that kind of stuff. You keep it simple with him and he's going to be great. But it's not always going to be simple at the NFL level. So, to me, he's like a lesser version of Torrance. He's strong, but he doesn't move well. And, look, that's fine for a right guard in most circumstances, but I'm looking at what the Rams did when Waldron was on their staff with McVay, and I'm seeing a need for a guard that can play in space a little bit. And maybe you could get away with it if you had a left guard that could play in space with a center that can play in space. We don't have that right now. We have Damian Lewis. So asking Shane Waldron to run his offense with a left guard and a right guard that don't move well, I'd rather not do it. We're already pushing it with D-Lou. So, good prospect. I'm going to continue to say that, but I'm not interested in him until the middle third round, and I don't think he's going to be there in the middle third round. At that point, yes, the value is there. And, look, he's still a good player. You're going to have to limit your playbook with him a little bit, but you're at least getting a really good player, somebody who's probably better than Phil Haynes on an objective level, even though I think he's a worse fit for what we're doing. So, yeah, in the mid-third round, if he's still there, I would take him, but I don't think that's going to happen because I think both him and Torrance are just getting overvalued because they are such good right guard prospects. But to me, I just look at it and I go, well, what's the value in that? You could give me the best kicker in this draft. I wouldn't take him until day 3. So why am I spending a top pick on a right guard? I just don't I don't see it. But people are going to feel differently. I know both these guys are very popular with some Seahawks fans. Let me know what you guys think. That's it for the top 100 right guards. We're going to take a look at more day 3 options tomorrow. See you guys then. Go Hawks.